my using at its worst would have been around COVID. My dad had just passed away, and I was really like, I hit a different type of rock bottom where I was like, I wasn't looking after myself at all. I was living very recklessly, and I didn't care what happened to me.
Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Slaying Sober, where we tell stories of addiction, recovery, and hope. Wherever you are on your sober journey, know that you do not stand alone. I first stumbled across Jordan on TikTok, of all places, where he was spreading his message of recovery and hope. Jordan grew up surrounded in chaos, domestic violence, drugs, and jail from a young age was something that was surrounding him. So it's no wonder that he went down this path. At some point along the journey, he decided he wanted to break the cycle and change his life. And he rebuilt it up from the ground. It was a slow process, starting again with no career, no stability, and no mates. He had to change old, embedded behaviours. He kept showing up, kept rebuilding, and took guidance from people who had done it before him. He listened to the suggested things from drug court, the rooms, a sponsor, step work, and now routine is an important part of his recovery. Jordan is now clean, hands-on with his kids, and working in recovery, and telling his story to show people that in the chaos, there's a way out if you're willing to do the work. Please enjoy this conversation with Jordan. G'day, Jordan. Welcome to Slaying Sober. Thanks a heap for jumping on.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Now, I've seen a bit of your work on TikTok. That's how I came across you, mate. It's a wild world of recovery, and it takes all sorts. What drew you to TikTok?
So when I learnt about recovery, I started to see certain people on TikTok promoting recovery, and that's what sort of caught my eye. That's where I sort of learned about recovery and got into it myself. And I struggled the early days in recovery, and I know a lot of other people do, so that's sort of why I get on TikTok now and share to the people that are in early recovery that are struggling that it is possible.
Yeah, what a great way of being able to be of service through social media. Who would have thought?
Mate, I've never been one for a camera, like I grew up thinking that the cameras weren't a thing, and you got to adapt with the times, I guess.
Yeah. What's been the most rewarding part of making yourself vulnerable and putting yourself in front of a camera on social media?
I think I get people message me, people connecting with me and sort of sharing their struggles or what they're going through, and I've been able to help them the best way I can, I can't help people fully, but I can sort of just share my experience and my strength, I guess.
Absolutely. So let's take a step back to where it all began for you. Where did you grow up, Jordan?
I grew up in Melbourne, like East Keilor, Essendon, sort of Footscray, around those.
And tell us about your first experiences with drugs and alcohol.
When I was younger, I would have gone to parties and with cousins, they might have stolen a beer and I might have drank, but I started to use, it would have been just a sip and we would have thought we were cool, but then got to year 7 and I guess the drink, we started drinking in around year 7, and man, I had a good group of friends that I grew up with, and we were all very close, and we started partying pretty much as soon as we got to high school, and drinking was the first thing we did.
Yeah.
And not long after, come the chuff, smoking chuff.
Escalated from there.
100%. Yeah.
And what do you think led you to consumption of substance at such a young age?
Well, look, I'll open up about it, but I think I grew up around a lot of there was a lot of domestic violence. There was a lot of domestic violence. Also, my dad went to jail at a young age, and then also in my teens went to jail again. And I guess I didn't really have the interactions with my dad weren't positive at all. I love my dad. He passed away 6 years ago. We were very close before he passed away, but he just he went through his struggles when he was a kid, then he wasn't really sure. Look, I guess what it is I didn't have the male role model that I needed, and the role models I went to were the ones that were drinking, using, partying, going to jail, all that type of stuff,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that you've had to deal with that through your growing years, mate.
Nah, look, thank you for that, but it sort of made me who I am today,
So would you say that you sort of were following in his footsteps?
I was probably trying not to, but yeah, I probably was, yeah, definitely, yeah.
So tell us about how your drug using increased and progressed.
Well, I mean, as I said, started off as a teenager drinking, and then it got to trying smoking joints, then it progressed into smoking bongs, and then it progressed into, catching up with the boys nightly, and we'd smoke somewhere. And then, as you get a little bit older and the parties get a lot more frequently, and I played football. I was very social, growing up. So there was there were parties every weekend, and maybe it might have been 2 parties a weekend that me and my friends would go to. And as you get older, more people drink. There's then more people start using substances. Eckies and that. So then I started taking ecstasy, which then led to sort of speed, and I stuck with that 16, 17. And when I got to my, 18, 19, 20, that's when ice was a lot more frequent, and I become a daily user by the time I was 20.
Yeah, wow. That's hectic.
Yeah.
How functional was your life around that point?
It wasn't really functional. I thought I was functional, but I wasn't, I was, don't get me wrong, I left school in year 11, I went and worked for a year, and then I stopped working, and I sort of, there wasn't really much function. I wasn't functioning, I wasn't working or anything like that. I was sort of just living that sort of lifestyle of using, and had the means to use, and that's what my life revolved around. Drugs, yeah.
And did that go down? So obviously we know that using dysfunctionally can lead down to the life of crime, and I believe incarceration is part of your story.
Yeah, definitely it is. I don't know about. Yeah, I was never functional. I was never a functional user, but I survived. I used daily, and I can't really describe it, but jail did become a part of my story when I was around 23. I went to jail for the first time, and I'd go to jail, I'd get clean, I'd get out, and the first couple of times I'd use straight away. Look, it was just and then it turned into a cycle, and that's I used to live and live to use.
Yeah. And your incarceration, what did you go to jail for?
Look, quite a few different things. The first time was trafficking, but it was in a time of 6 months. I was caught with multiple different amounts of drugs. I was never caught trafficking anything, but I was just caught with certain amounts of drugs, which then got me locked up and remanded. Another time was for ram raids. Another time was for fraud. Another time was for a firearm. So for a gun. So yeah,
All stuff that was involved and related around your drug use.
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. And firearms, is that part of, protecting yourself? Is it part of being in organised crime? How did that look? Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Look, I probably prefer not to touch on that. Like, it's just, yeah,
Yep,
okay, yeah. It
that's okay.
comes hand in. It comes hand in hand. Like it's sort of the lifestyle I was living. It come hand in hand with that type of stuff. Yeah, it did in the end. Like at the start, it wasn't really about that, but then in the end, it's sort of it gets messy. Yeah, yeah.
100%. No, all good. And tell me about your using at its worst, Jordan. What were the worst days of your using?
My using at its worst would have been around COVID. My
Mm-hmm.
dad had just passed away, and I I was really like I hit a different type of rock bottom where I was like I
Mm.
wasn't looking after myself at all. I sort of I was living very recklessly, and I didn't care what happened to me. I mean, I think I sort of always lived like that, but during COVID was like the really, I just lost my dad. I felt
Yep.
like it's hard to explain, but it was very difficult, and I used like I nearly died a lot of times by my using, and yeah, put myself in very risky situations.
So you self-medicated when your father passed away?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And what type of drugs were you using at that time?
Look, I've always self-medicated, but when my dad passed away, I
Mm.
was using ice primarily. I was using
Yeah.
heroin, and uh, I'd use a little bit of juice.
Yeah. So you're a poly user at that point. So you were saying there, Jordan, after your father passed away, your drug use escalated and you
Yep,
were poly using at that point.
yep, yep.
And what happened from there?
Look, I continued to use daily, and lived pretty chaotically. Look,
Yeah.
to be fair, my using's always been pretty chaotic, but just at that time after my
Yeah.
dad passed away, it got really, really out of hand. I ended up. That's
Yes.
when I did get that. I got locked up. I did get caught with. That's when I got caught with the gun, and I went to jail for that,
Mm.
which then sort of sobered me up.
Yep.
And then when I got out, I moved to the part my partner at the time, who I've got kids with, she had moved up to Darwin to get away
Yep.
for me to get away from
Okay.
the drugs, and to move away from Melbourne. And I got out and moved straight up to Darwin, and I went up there, and that's where I sort of like learnt about recovery, and that was a lot of it was through social media. I was clean, working,
Okay.
yeah, and got introduced to recovery via social media.
Nice, man. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So you come out of jail, you moved up to Darwin, and you started to experience a life of sobriety.
correct. Yeah.
Tell me about when you were in jail, you got incarcerated, you'd been using pretty hardcore, and you said that jail sobered you up. What was it like detoxing in jail?
Mate, it was actually very hard at the start. Like the first couple of weeks, I
Mm.
experienced like really bad psychosis. I think it might have been from the drugs coming out of my system, and I think maybe because this time
Yes.
it was during COVID where we were we were locked down, we were in quarantine. It was so I experienced really bad psychosis getting locked up. But then it takes within 3 or 4 weeks, I'm back to myself. I start to come good again. I start to get more healthy.
That must have been really hard, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but I believe that I had to go through that to be where I'm at today. Like if it was easy, then I
Yes.
probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now about recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you get like medical support and assistance through that in prison?
No, no, no. Yeah, of course you
No.
get seen
Just
by.
cold turkey, man. White
Yeah,
knuckle.
yeah, yeah.
Man, that's brutal. And what about in jail? The drug culture in there. I've spoken with a fair few guys and girls that have been in jail, and they said that there is a hectic drug scene behind bars.
Yeah, definitely there is. It's, obviously it's very common. You can get drugs in there quite easily. Myself, I don't use in jail, like it's not my thing. I go in there, I get healthy, I train, and I work out, and I I start to plan to get out and live normal. I don't go into jail to use, Yeah.
Mm. So when you got out and you went up to Darwin, how
Yep.
long ago was that?
That was in 2021.
Okay. So I'm putting together that you did use again after that
Yeah.
period of time before you got clean.
Yep. Correct. Yep. Yeah. So I got out of jail in 2021. I moved up to Darwin. I worked. I did the right thing for, I think, 10 months, just under a year, and I relapsed. I come back down. I come back down to Melbourne for a holiday, and I caught up with, like I didn't plan on, like I probably did, but I come down to Melbourne. I caught up with some friends, and I knew what I was walking into. And in the end, I'm the type that when I start, I don't stop, and I took it back up to Darwin with me and used up there, and I continued that for as long as I could. The first lot of consequences were my partner at the time. She caught on to me pretty quickly that I was using, and she gave me the ultimatum, like the option of continue using and leave, or get help and go to rehab. And I didn't want to go to rehab. I wanted to, like, when I start using, I continue using. I can't stop, unless it's sort of like it's a forced thing, such as going to jail. And I agreed to go to rehab. I went and checked myself into rehab for a night, and I left. And I continued using until I got locked up for the last time. Yep.
It's a real crossroad, isn't it? Like I've been in that same position as well, man, where my partner has said to me, effectively it felt like you can choose me and the children, or you can choose the substance.
Yeah.
And it seems like retrospectively, it's obviously a really easy question to answer. But when you're in the midst of addiction,
there's no choice.
It's a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah. Well, for me, we always have choice. We always have choice, but it's just sort of like, I guess it's where they talk about in the rooms is like that allergy. Like I have that. As soon as I start, I get that allergy where I cannot stop.
Yes.
And
I feel ya.
Yeah, and like that's just now the position I'm in. It's like I don't put myself in any situations where that allergy can come alive again. Like I will not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
tease the disease.
Yeah, and I don't want to either. Like I've built, I've built a life now. And what I mean by that is I'm actively in my kids' lives. I see them quite a lot. I've got a lot of commitments, and I'm happy with the commitments I have. Life isn't unbearable for me. So
yeah. Well, we'll come to that in a second. So you were up in Darwin, you used for a year, and then you did, the consequences were that you got given this crossroad, and then you said you continued to use until you got incarcerated again.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then was that the final push to your current sobriety?
It was, yeah. So I had a hard relapse. I experienced homelessness in this last relapse, and I got locked up in the end. I mean, when I say I experienced homelessness, like I wasn't living on the street, but I was, like having to get hotels for 5 nights and then check out of there and get another hotel for another week or whatever it was, but that was like the homelessness I experienced. And then I got remanded again. I got locked up. I had the police looking for me for the whole time from charged stuff from years earlier. And when I got caught. It's just messy. I was very messy, and I got remanded for 6 months. I got clean. I experienced a psychosis at the start when I was locked up. Then when I finally got a bit better, got back into looking after myself, and then I got drug court. So I did drug court years earlier, and then I got drug caught again for the second time, and I just used that as much as I could to stay clean. Yeah.
So tell me about what is drug court for those that don't know.
So drug court is you get released from jail. Like you pretty much get sentenced. You get a jail sentence, but you get to do it in the community. And how it looks is you got to go drug courts in the city. You got to go into the city 3 times a week. You got to do urines Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. You got to see a case manager, a counsellor, and the magistrate once a week. And when you do, and when you see the magistrate at the end of the week, they sort of work out where you're at, like, because you get urined, people can use while they're on drug court. You just got to be honest, and you got to try and like work off. Say if you give a dirty urine, you got to then give like a clean one, and then you got to like attend the appointments that you have to attend to get it to knock your points off, sort of thing, And when you reach a certain amount of points, they lock you up for a week. So it's sort of like a big point system that you work on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you use this to stay clean?
Yeah, I did. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They kept me accountable.
Awesome. Do you also get court mandated to go to 12-step fellowship or anything like that?
Yeah, well, at the start I did, yes. Yeah. Which I'm very grateful for because it introduced me to, the rooms.
Yeah. So that was the difference this time. The drug court and getting in the rooms was different to other times in this sobriety.
Look, no, this time was different because this time I'd had enough. The consequences were getting too much and I wanted to change my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. The times before that,
you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it. I didn't know it was possible to live a life without drugs. That's as I said, from a young age, I started using, and I just thought that was life. I just thought that was all normal. Yeah.
And so, what did you do to stay clean?
I did everything. I the number one thing is I did what was suggested. I listened to the people at drug court, and they told me to go to a meeting, so I went to a meeting. Then I was told there to get a mentor / sponsor. I did that. And then I took guidance. I listened to people. If you want to get to where other people are at, you listen to their advice.
Yeah, because they've done it before. They've been where you are.
Yeah,
and they're showing us that they can lead a life without drugs, a fulfilling life.
Yep. And that's the thing. At the start, I sort of thought that it wasn't going to be a fulfilling life. I thought I was just going to exist and be miserable because that's all I knew was to use drugs and to live a very fast sort of lifestyle. And now I've learned, but it took a while to sort of figure it out that that's not the case. I do live a fulfilling life these days, and it's busy, and I'm very grateful for it. So yeah.
Tell me about that. So in early recovery, those first sort of 30 days, do you remember how you felt then?
Look, the first 30 days, I missed all those early days. I was in jail, but then I got out.
Yes.
So I got out at 6 months clean. I got introduced to the rooms just before I was a year clean. And at the start, I got out. I think it's similar to people that do rehab. They talk about the pink cloud. Well, I got out. I got out of jail on the pink cloud. I thought everything was going to be great.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was very focused on fitness and stuff like that. But then I think the real world caught up with me, and I couldn't handle it. And I sort of not that I couldn't handle it. It was just I wasn't used to the day-to-day stuff of being a sort of adult. And and as I said, I did what was suggested. It took me a long time, and this is what I sort of share about is I never lived the sort of normal adult life. I did for 6 months here or 10 months there, but I was always sort of taking Valium, or I was always self-medicating some way or another. This time that's not the case.
Yeah. Yep.
And I guess I really struggled. Between my 1 year and my 2 years was a really, really big struggle for me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think that was?
Um, well, like I didn't have. So as I said, I've never really worked. Like I've never really had a job. I never had a career to
Yep.
go back to. I never had. I'd
Mm.
broken a lot of relationships. I had to rebuild trust, attempt to fix relationships, which wasn't always easy. So I was starting from I
Yep.
was starting from rock bottom and having to build up, and it was a very slow
Yeah.
process. I went while I was on drug court. Had the opportunity to go do my AOD course, still not knowing what I was going to do
Okay.
with my life, and then I
Mm.
just like it was very hard. It was very hard, James. But what I did do is I kept going to meetings, and
Yeah.
I just did the next. Like I just did what I had to do. One step at a time, and I struggled. Like it really was hard, but and
Mm.
I share about this quite a lot. That like I used to, the days that I wasn't going to my course, picking up my kids, or going to drug court commitments or working, I'd sleep all day. I'd sleep literally all
Yeah.
day and not get up for anything. I didn't get up for myself because I didn't know
Mm.
what I wanted to do, or had no clue in what I enjoyed doing. Today, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in that year 1 to 2, were you actively engaged in doing step work and these sorts of things?
yeah, I was. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But I was very,
And
I
did that
was
teach you a better way to live?
100%. Yeah, yeah, it did. Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, as I said, like
Yeah.
I pretty much, it's like I've had to start all over again in the last 3 years. And I've really had to become a new
Yeah.
person. And the meetings, the steps, drug court, my family, myself also. Like it's just I've had to keep building, and learning. And yes, the steps have been
Yeah.
a major part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And learn to become a human being, an adult.
correct. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Which I do now. I also had to make all new connections, make all new friends because I couldn't. For me to stay
Yes.
clean, I had to leave all the old friends and all the old people in the past, unfortunately, and I've had to try and make new connections.
Mm-hmm.
So, like as I said, like between the year 1 and year 2, it was very difficult. Trying to make friends, make connections, rebuild relationships, find employment, find what I wanted to do with my life, while also going to drug court and just trying to stay clean. Because before that, all I knew was to escape and go and not escape, but to do what was easy. So, because that's what I knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I come
Talk to
from,
me about that. Like I've not really thought about or looked into that too much before, but obviously you got to get rid of all your old connections,
yeah,
and as a 30-year-old guy, make new friends and stuff like that. How did you go about that?
the rooms helped a lot. Um, and also
Mm.
like not to, I'm just going to throw this in there, but I used drugs my whole life, and I did what I had to fund that lifestyle. It wasn't just you; it was living that type of lifestyle.
Yeah.
I had to drop those behaviors as well because in
Mm.
the past, I I I would be clean, but I'd still do that stuff, or I tried to, but I couldn't do it successfully because I'd end up using. So I really had to change my whole
Yeah.
identity in the person that I was to get to where I'm at today. And going back to asking about how I made friends, well, I used the rooms, I used the meetings, and I went to those meetings. But
Yeah.
what I did is I got the sponsor, I got the mentor first, and I made sure that I fixed myself. Well,
Mm.
not fixed, I don't really like that word, but I just took guidance and did what was suggested. And then as time went along, I'd always actively make conversations and speak with people. But I guess as time goes along, you start to see the same sort of people. You start to figure out who you connect with, who you don't connect with. And over time, I've built great relationships.
Yeah. And it's funny, you build really warm and meaningful connection with people that have, lost everything and had to start again in similar positions to yourself,
Yeah.
that you're all working towards the same thing. You're all sober and trying to get well.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
How beautiful.
Oh, it's great.
So tell me about when did your kids come back into your life?
I'm very fortunate that their mother has allowed me to see them. As long as I wasn't using, I was allowed to see them. And I
Yeah.
guess I've always, like I wasn't. I've always had morals. Like I've always known sort of. I've always done the right thing by my family to the best of my ability. And I guess when I got out of jail, she let me see my kids straight away. Like I didn't start having them instantly, but we worked towards it, And I'm very grateful that I do get along with the mother of my kids, and she's been great. She's supported me through all this also.
Yep. And I've seen some of your stuff online, man. You're obviously working towards being the best dad you can be.
Correct. Yeah. 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 It's my son's birthday today. He's just turned 8. So
Hey,
yeah.
good stuff. Happy birthday, young fella.
Yeah. So I went and picked him up this morning, drove him to school, had to go grab a cake for him. I'm going to see him again tonight. So yeah, I do my best.
Yeah.
I mean, I see him quite a lot.
And a gift of recovery. What a gift for them to have you around, with the freedom of walking around in the streets, not being incarcerated, not having that over your head, and more importantly, being free from drugs.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
And so you did your AOD course.
I did. Yes.
And you're now working in the recovery space?
I do. Yeah. I work in the recovery space. Yes. I work at one rehab and I work a little bit at another one also. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So you get to show your lived experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lead the way.
Yeah. I just.
How good, man.
Yeah. I mean, I can just share my experience, and if I've can help, then that's what I'm there for.
Brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
So what's your life look like now?
It's very busy, very full. So, work, kids commitments. As I speak a lot in my posts, I'm big on routine, big on sticking to my routine, and just doing my best.
What's that look like?
Look, my routine's pretty solid most days. Like I wake up, I jump in, have a cold shower straight away. I go for a long walk. I don't pick up my phone. Like I don't check notifications or anything like that. I go and buy a coffee and I come home and I sort of start my day. I just make sure that I stick to those couple of things. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you need to overcomplicate that as well, like that morning routine. Some people
keep it simple.
I'll have a cold shower, look to the sun, journal 15 pages, read half a book, drink some cacao, and sort of like when you got children as well, like life still needs to go on.
Correct.
So sometimes a meditation can be, for me, like 10 seconds of, just touching in with, my heart and my breath and feeling that really deeply.
Yeah.
And then I have nothing else in my head to do. And it can be done in a nanosecond or in seconds, and just, leveling up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I try not to overcomplicate it. Just keep it simple. And, try and I'll add in what I can add in, or I'll take out what I have to take out. But my main thing is waking up the same time every day, the cold shower, and getting a walk in, as long as I stick to those 3 things, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Start the day on a good platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. And what are you most excited for, Jordan, moving forward?
I'm probably most excited to be the dad that I need to be for my kids, and then also like I'm looking forward to what's in the future. Like I think I used to dread the future because I didn't know, I was in a lot of fear, but now I'm looking forward to the future and what it holds.
Yeah, how brilliant, man.
Yeah, yeah,
And you've got a long time ahead of you, mate, and you'll get to watch your kids grow up and do all the cool shit in front of them, and
definitely.
they've got a dad that they can be inspired by.
Hope so. Yes, yes. Yeah.
Good on you, my man. Well, thanks so much for your time and for sharing so much today.
No, thank you, James. Thanks for having me.
And people, no problems. People will listen to this and that'll help them along the way, mate. So keep doing what you're doing for this sober community. And I've enjoyed, what you give to it. And I'm sure many people will take a lot away from your work, Jordan.
Thanks, James. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today on Slaying Sober. If you're sober curious, in addiction, or know someone who could benefit from listening, please share this episode with them. Jump over to Instagram and say g'day at Slaying Sober Pod and follow us on Spotify to hear the latest episodes come out. Until then, keep slaying sober.